have you ever wished you could express yourself in English as easily as you do in your native tongue? The secret lies in shifting your mindset, learning to think in English. This unlocks a whole new level of fluency, allowing you to speak more naturally and effortlessly. Instead of mentally translating every word, you'll find yourself forming thoughts directly in English, leading to smoother conversations and a deeper understanding of the language. Thinking in English is like unlocking a door to a whole new world of communication. It helps you bypass the translation process, which can often be slow and clunky. When you think in English, words and phrases come to mind more naturally, making your speech more fluent and spontaneous. It's like having a direct line to expressing yourself in English without the detours. This essay will guide you through a simple 4-stage process to help you master this invaluable skill. We'll explore practical exercises and techniques that you can easily incorporate into your daily routine. Remember, consistency is key. Just like any skill, the more you practice thinking in English, the better you'll become. So, are you ready to embark on this exciting journey of learning to think like a native English speaker? Let's dive in and explore the 4 stages that will transform how you think and speak in English. Verbs are the backbone of any language, representing actions, states, or occurrences. They inject life and movement into our thoughts, forming the foundation of how we communicate. When you begin to think in English, verbs are your starting point. Start by paying close attention to the actions happening around you throughout your day. Are you walking to the park, reading a book, or cooking dinner? Instead of thinking about these actions in your native language, try to label them mentally using simple English verbs. Walk, read, cook. As you become more comfortable with this, challenge yourself to incorporate more descriptive verbs. Instead of just walk, think, stroll, jog, or hurry. This conscious effort to use English verbs will slowly rewire your brain to think in English at a fundamental level. Remember, the key is to make this a regular practice. Dedicate a few minutes each day to mentally labeling actions you see or perform using English verbs. This simple exercise lays the groundwork for constructing more complex thoughts and sentences in English. Once you've begun to master verbs, it's time to populate your English thoughts with nouns. Nouns give names to everything around us: people, places, things, and even abstract concepts like ideas and emotions. Expanding your noun vocabulary is essential for expressing yourself more fully in English. Begin by actively noticing the objects in your surroundings. Instead of thinking table in your native language, consciously think table in English. Do this with everything you encounter: chair, window, sky, phone. Make it a game to label as many objects as you can in English. Gradually expand your focus to include places and people. When you're walking down the street, think street, building, car, man, woman, child, all in English. This constant mental labeling will solidify these words in your mind. Don't be afraid to use a dictionary or language learning app to look up new nouns. The more you expand your English noun vocabulary, the richer and more nuanced your thoughts in English will become. Now that you're comfortable thinking with individual verbs and nouns, it's time to connect them into meaningful phrases and sentences. This is where conjunctions, like and, but, or, prepositions, like on, in, at, and other connecting words come into play. Start by forming simple sentences in your mind, connecting the verbs and nouns you've been practicing. For example, instead of just thinking walk and park, think I'm walking in the park, or the dog is running in the park. As you become more confident, gradually increase the complexity of your sentences. Introduce adverbs to modify verbs, walking quickly, reading carefully, and adjectives to describe nouns: a beautiful park, an interesting book. The goal is to train your mind to naturally string together English words in a grammatically correct way. Don't worry too much about perfect grammar at this stage. The important thing is to get comfortable with the flow of English sentences. Section 5, Stage 4, Paragraphs. Painting pictures with words. The final stage of mastering the art of thinking in English is to weave your thoughts into coherent paragraphs. This involves describing scenes, telling stories, and expressing your opinions in a structured and detailed manner. Begin by choosing a simple topic you're familiar with, such as describing your daily routine, a recent event, or your favorite place. Mentally compose a short paragraph about this topic, using the vocabulary and grammar you've been practicing. For example, you could describe your morning routine. Every morning, I wake up early and make myself a cup of coffee. I like to sit by the window and watch the sunrise while I sip my coffee. It's a peaceful way to start the day. As you become more comfortable, challenge yourself to write longer and more complex paragraphs. Incorporate new vocabulary, use a variety of sentence structures, and focus on expressing your ideas clearly and engagingly. Remember, the goal is not to become a novelist overnight. It's about training your mind to think and express yourself in English in a more natural and fluent way. Section 6. Practical exercises, putting theory into practice. Now that we've covered the 4 stages of thinking in English, let's explore some practical exercises to help you integrate these techniques into your daily life. First, describe your surroundings. Take a few moments each day to mentally describe your surroundings in English. Whether you're at home, at work, or commuting, pay attention to the details and try to label everything you see. Next, narrate your actions. As you go about your day, mentally narrate your actions in English. For example, instead of just making breakfast, think I'm making breakfast. I'm cooking eggs and toast. Then think in English while reading. When reading English texts, try to think about the content in English as you're reading. Avoid translating back and forth between your native language and English. Another great exercise is to keep an English journal. Dedicate a few minutes each day to writing in an English journal. Write about your day, your thoughts, or anything else that comes to mind. Lastly, talk to yourself in English. Don't be afraid to talk to yourself in English. This is a great way to practice your pronunciation and get comfortable with the sound of your own voice speaking English. Remember, consistency is key. The more you practice thinking in English, the more natural it will become. Section 7. Consistency is key. The power of daily habits. Just like any new skill, learning to think in English requires consistent effort and practice. It's not something that will happen overnight, but with dedicated effort, you'll gradually notice a significant improvement in your fluency. The key is to make thinking in English a daily habit. Incorporate the practical exercises we discussed into your daily routine. Even dedicating just 10 to 15 minutes each day can make a world of difference over time. Think of it like exercising a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. The same principle applies to thinking in English. The more you practice, the easier and more natural it will feel. Don't get discouraged if you find yourself slipping back into your native language from time to time. It's perfectly normal. Just gently remind yourself to switch back to thinking in English. Section 8. Embrace the journey. Mistakes are stepping stones. As you embark on this journey of learning to think in English, it's crucial to embrace the learning process and not be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes are an inevitable part of learning any language. In fact, they are valuable opportunities for growth. Instead of viewing mistakes as failures, see them as stepping stones on your path to fluency. Each mistake presents a chance to learn something new and improve your understanding of the language. Don't be afraid to experiment with the language, even if you're not sure if you're using it perfectly. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become. And remember, even native English speakers make mistakes from time to time. The most important thing is to keep practicing, keep learning, and never give up on your goal of mastering the art of thinking in English. Section 9, conclusion. Think in English, speak with confidence. Learning to think in English is a transformative journey that unlocks a whole new level of fluency and confidence. By mastering the 4 stages outlined in this essay, verbs, nouns, connecting words, and paragraphs, you'll gradually rewire your brain to process information and express yourself directly in English. Remember, consistency is paramount. Make thinking in English a daily habit, incorporating the practical exercises into your routine. Embrace the learning process, view mistakes as opportunities for growth, and never underestimate the power of persistent effort. So embrace the challenge, persevere, and soon you'll find yourself thinking, dreaming, and speaking English with the fluency and confidence of a native speaker. Your journey to English mastery begins with a single thought. Think in English, and the world will open up to you in ways you never imagined.